Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Salya, Bintari, Putri, study number 22, 41, 10, and 83. In this video, I will explain about development and organizational culture. Organizational development is a systematically planned process to change and improve the performance on organization. The focus is not only on increasing efficiency but also on employee well-being, which means improving the work experience and improving relationship between individuals in the organization. This influence change the behavior, structure, and culture of the organization that can have a positive impact in the long term. Characteristics of organizational development include first long-term change. Unlike temporary or instantaneous change, organizational development aims to bring out lasting change. For example, if an organization want to increase productivity, an organizational development approach might focus more on changing work culture or team communicate that will affect performance over a long period of time. Two systemic approach. Organizational development views the organization as a whole, where change in one part will have an impact on other parts. For example, change in the management structure also affect how employees in field interact or work. 3. Employee involvement. Organizational development is often successful when it involves all employees in the process. This means the open communicate and participation from all levels of employee are essential. And last, focus on interpersonal relationship. Many organization development intervention focus on relationship between individual and teams. Activities such as team building, training, or feedback session can strengthen this relationship, ultimately increasing collaboration and productivity. Organizational development approaches. Organizational development often involves the use of specific approaches or methodologies designed to address change at the individual, team, or organizational-wide level. Some commonly used approaches include first Lewin's approach, unfreezing, changing, and refreezing. Kurt-Lewin model of organizational change is one of the most basic and widely used in managing change. The process is divided into three main stages. First, unfreezing. This is the beginning stage of the change process. This stage, our organization begins to recognize that change is necessary. In order to make change, the organizational must be break down old habits or patterns that are no longer effective or consistent with the new goals. 2. Changing. Once the organization is ready to change, the second stage is to actually implement the change. At this stage, the organization begins to adopt new process, structure, behavior, or values. And 3. Rephrasing. Once the change has been successfully implemented, the final stage is to ensure that the change becomes the part of the organizational daily habit, the practice. And 3. Rephrasing. Once the change has been successfully implemented, the final stage is to ensure that the change becomes part of the organization daily habits and practice. Next approach is action research. Action research is an approach that focuses more on the active participation. Action research is an approach that focuses more on the active participation of employees in the organizational change process. This approach is collaborative and involves a continuous cycle of action, where Problems are identified, solved, and assessed continuously. Here a main stage. First, data collection. The first step in action research is to collect information related to the problem or challenge faced by organization. 2. Feedback. Once the data is collected, the findings are returned to management or employees in the form of feedback. The goal is to identify areas that need change and allow employees to contribute to formulating solutions. This stage is important because it involves employees to in the process, making them more likely to support the upcoming change. 3. Intervention. Based on the result of the feedback and problem diagnosis, the next step is to design and implement interventions that aim to improve the problematic condition. This intervention can be structural change, training, or the introduction of the new procedures. For example, if the survey results indicate problems with interdepartmental communication, the intervention could be communication skill training or the implementation of more effective digital communication tools. 4. Evaluation. The final stage in action research is to evaluate whether the intervention was successful. This evaluation is often done through additional data collection cycle or survey to see if conditions have improved. If the intervention has not been successful, the organization can go back to the beginning and try a different intervention, making the process iterative and ongoing. Difference between Lewin's approach and action research. Lewin's approach tends to be more linear and has clear stage, from unphrasing to rephrasing. The main focus is on making systemic planning change. Action research is more cyclical, and next, organizational culture. Organizational culture is the soul of an organization that includes the norms, values, belief, and practices that members of the organization follow. This culture influences how employees behave, how decisions are made, and how problems are solved. For example, in a motivated organizational culture, employees may be freer to try new ideas and are less afraid to fail. Component of organizational culture. First, value. These are the basic principles that the organization upholds, such as integrity, innovation, and collaboration. These values serve as guidelines for everyday behavior within the organization. 2. Norms. Norms are unwritten expectations about how members of the organization should behave. For example, the norm at the technology company may favor teamwork and collaboration, while at the more traditional company, they may favor hierarchy and authority. 3. Rituals and symbols. Rituals can be custom or traditional, such as weekly meeting or celebration of successful project. Symbols can be logos, uniforms, or office design that reflect the organizational culture. And basic assumption. These are fundamental beliefs that are rarely questioned by members of the organization. For example, the assumption that the customer is always right in a strong customer service culture. Types of organizational culture. First, innovative culture. Emphasize creativity and adaptability. Organizations with this culture usually give employees room to experiment and innovate. 2. Stability culture. Places greater places greater emphasis on security, routine and stability. Organizations with this culture tend to be conservative and risk averse. 3. Result-oriented culture. Focus on achieving target and efficiency. Employees are judged on their work result and there is often pressure to meet company goals. And employee well-being culture places great emphasis on employee well-being, creating an environment that supports work-life balance and happiness in the workplace. The impact organizational culture in performance. A positive organizational culture can increase employee motivation and performance, creating a pleasant and productive work environment. Conversely, unsupportive or negative culture can lead to dissatisfaction, high turnover, and poor performance. Managing cultural change in organization. Organizational culture change is often necessary when an organization undergoes major change such as merger, restructuring, or strategic shift. Managing cultural change is a complex task because it involves changing deeply rooted values. Step to change organizational culture. First, assess current culture. 2. Identify desired culture. 3. Communicate the vision of change. 4. Intervene. And last, measure and adjust. Organizational culture and sustainable change. Organizational culture is not static. Instead, culture evolves over time due to a variety of factors, including change in leadership, market change, or technological innovation. Factors that influence into organizational culture. First, external environment include globalization, technological change, and economic conditions. And 2. Internal factor. It includes organizational history and tradition, organizational structure, and employee and leaders. Challenge in developing culture and organization. Developing and managing culture on an organization has several challenges that need to be overcome, including first, resistance to change. Employees often feel comfortable with the existing way of working and are reluctant to make change. This resistance can be caused by fear of uncertainty, loss of status, or change in responsibility. And 2. Consistency in implementation. One of the major challenges in managing culture is ensuring that cultural change is implemented consistently throughout the organization. 2. Consistency in implementation. One of the major challenges in managing culture is ensuring that cultural change is implemented consistently throughout the organization. This requires full support from all levels of management and employees. Okay, that's all explanation about development and organizational culture. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.